What's shaking, bacon? In today's video, we're going to discuss January, World Carnivore Month. In this video, I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction to World Carnivore Month, but first we'll do a little bit of an update with what I'm doing with my challenge. I've been doing a lion diet challenge since the beginning of September, and now we're approaching the very tail end of December. So this was going to take me till January 1st. I'm going to go for a bod pod exam, which has been difficult to schedule for the first part of January, but I have been able to schedule my DEXA scan, and that's sort of the gold standard, industry standard for telling your body fat, lean mass. And I had a weird hiccup for December 1st where I lost 11 pounds. And in this challenge, the first 2 months of this challenge, I'd put on muscle, lost fat. And then I got to the third month and I lost 11 pounds. Most of it was lean mass though. 9 pounds of it was lean mass. So short of it being a mix up with a scale or something like that, or the machine, the bod pod is what I used. Yeah, I have no idea why that happened. It doesn't make sense if you're exercising and on a high protein diet. But nonetheless, that's where I am. So my test is going to be coming up in a few weeks now, actually just a couple weeks, and then we're going to be going over the results. So come January, I'm going to do probably either the lion diet or the regular carnivore diet. But I know for January, whichever one of those I choose, I'm going to do no salt. I want to give that a shot just for a month. And if I do that, I'll probably maybe extend the lion diet for that month. So that way I'll be doing it on the heels of the lion diet and I'll have something to compare it to. But for March and February, I'm probably going to do regular carnivore because I'm going to have some homemade sausage and I probably want to reintroduce that salt into my diet. Unless for some reason by the end of January it feels so amazing without the salt. What I would expect to see by the end of January is I'll probably seem to lose a little bit in my face. That's probably what you'll see from me cutting out the salt. My jawline will probably show up a little bit more, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. Well, I might have a beard then, so I'm not sure how that's going to work. So I might have to shave off the beard at the end of January. On to the main event, January being World Carnivore Month. Now, of course, any month can be your World Carnivore Month, right? Because it's your little world. But January is the month where people from all over the world, it's the time where they give this diet a shot. They've often done a bit of reading, they've done a bit of research. I have a few people that have seen my results in the last month. Actually, they've just happened to come across them in the last month, but they've seen my results now. And I'm at the point, it's funny because when you do something like this and you're a big guy, people hear what you're doing in the beginning and they go, oh, and you can tell they're thinking that is not healthy, right? And they don't like the idea of something that's an all-meat diet. But when they start to see the results, that's when people start listening to what you're saying, because before they would hear it and have their own preconceived opinions on a diet like this without having ever done much legwork into the research. But when it comes to seeing the results, that's when people start asking questions and that's when they get curious. So it's an interesting time because in the next few months when I do this way of eating, I'm going to go to a more restricted January, February, March with maybe ballpark around 2,000 calories in a day. So there's going to be more weight loss because right now I'm getting between 3,000 and 4,000 calories a day of red meat. So the weight loss isn't going to be as dramatic, though it's been happening. I'm probably down at least 3, probably by the beginning of January, it might be up to 4 inches on my waist. But I would say at least 3. A little less than I had expected, but then again, it's been on a very high calorie diet. And calories do play a part. There's two camps, right? Hormones versus calories. They both are important, right? So if you have 6,000 or 8,000 calories of meat in your day, yeah, that's most likely going to keep your weight loss from being a little faster, right? But if you restrict it down to, as far as a man goes, maybe 2,000 calories a day, yeah, you're going to notice some weight loss with that. Some people have had the opposite effect where they've increased their protein intake to, say, an extra pound a day, and then they've had weight loss. But that's because they've slowly been putting on weight over a period of years, and maybe when it comes to women especially, if you're premenopausal or you're in menopause, that's something that might come into play, right? So regardless, it's interesting to see what happens with this, because weight loss is one of the first things you notice, but the very first thing you notice when you do a carnivore diet, which is really a zero carb diet. Some people have been putting honey in this way of eating because it's an animal product. You're defeating the purpose. The whole point of this is to have zero carbohydrates and zero sugars. So if you put honey in this because it's an animal product, because there's some doctor out there who's recommending this, you're not going to feel the benefits of going on a sugar carb-free diet. The whole point of this is to be sugar and carb-free. Honey is not part of that. What's involved in this diet? Well, it's beef, poultry, seafood, pork. Some people have dairy, some people have wild game. When it comes to dairy, it may hinder your progress as far as weight loss goes and how good you feel. But if that's what some people need to make this work for the month, then do it, right? And you may find that it's worthwhile. You may end up sticking with it for an extra week or two, however long you decide. But there's no alcohol on this way of eating, and that can be difficult for people. Some people might still have gin or vodka because those are zero carb alcohols. So if you're like, look, I gotta have my drink once a week or on the weekends or whatever it is, once a day, that's something you can do. I don't think you'll notice the same benefits because this apparently keeps you out of ketosis, but try and go the month without it. If you're going to drink, those are your two drinks of choice. So the first thing you'll notice is the sugar withdrawals. Oh man, the first 2 to 3 days, you feel like crap. And if you have joint stiffness or arthritis, what I've always noticed is the first day, it gets a little worse. The second day, your joints get a little worse there. The third day, they get even worse to the point where you're thinking, oh man, this is horrible. And then day 4, from my experience and the experience of lots of people doing this, it's like the humidity breaks after a storm and all that joint stiffness tends to go away, and you notice it almost when you wake up. So sometimes if it's been from a broken bone, some people I've noticed it's taken up to a couple weeks. But typically in the first few days, you get this relief in your joints. The stiffness goes away and the ache and pain goes away. And you literally feel 15, 20, 25 years younger. And the longer you do it, the better it feels. I would say, even though it feels like 100% of it's gone, it's not really 100%. It's just such a dramatic difference from what you used to feel just a few days before. It's probably more like 80%. Because at the end of every week afterwards, you feel even better than you did the week before. So you can't get to 100% after a few days, or maybe you can. Everyone's different, but that's what I always noticed. I noticed it still takes a few weeks, and I also noticed taking pepper out of the equation helped big time when it comes to my joints. If I have pepper in my diet, it tends to make my joints a little more inflamed. So if you're trying to do this just to feel better for your joints, that's what I would recommend. All those foods, the salt is okay. So if you're gonna have bacon, you wanna make sure you get a bacon that has low or no sugar. So less than 1 gram per serving, I would hope. So some of them can have 4 or 5 or 6 grams or more. So you're just gonna feel looser and better. You're gonna be more limber, you're gonna bounce up steps, you're gonna have more of a bounce to your walk. You're gonna walk faster, believe it or not, because your joints are less stiff. I've noticed increased balance doing this. But after that, you'll start to notice if you snore, your snoring gets better. And that takes just a few days before you start to notice a difference. By the end of a week, it's probably like 75% better. And by the end of the second week, it's almost always gone. So some people it might take a little longer, some people it might be a little sooner, but typically within a couple weeks, there's a dramatic difference in your snoring. And that's kind of worth it for some people right there, because some people can't stand to sleep with those sleep apnea machines. The other thing you might notice right away is diarrhea. So the problem with the diarrhea is you might have too much fat in your diet as your body's adjusting to zero fiber and zero carbs. So you might want to stick with extra lean cuts of beef. If you're going to have, say, ground beef. If you're going to have steak, have extra lean steak. So I don't normally recommend that day to day. You usually want to get your fat in there. But if there's going to be one of those days where you can't afford to have diarrhea, because for the first week or two you might experience this, you may want to make sure to have a particular cut of meat the day before, the day of, so that you're not dealing with that problem on a very important date. So you have important meetings that day or something like that. You know, plan ahead. Figure out what works for you. The other thing you want to do is stay full. So you don't want to do this and get hungry, because as soon as you're hungry, you're going to crave all the things you're you can't have, right? So try and stay full when you eat this way. If you're hungry, you're doing it wrong. Even to lose weight, you'll still lose weight because you're gonna de-bloat eating like this. So in that first month, you're gonna lose some weight, but eat when you're hungry. Eat, I even suggest, when you're not hungry, so that you don't get hungry later on. So, you know, if you're worried you're gonna have a big stretch between lunch and dinner, because maybe you're working late or you have some plans, and dinner's gonna be put a little bit late, have a bigger lunch. Bring some extra food with you to tide you over. And the more fat you have in your diet, typically the more satisfied you'll be for longer periods of time. So you wanna make sure red meat is sort of your go-to typically. It's easy, it's affordable. You know, you can get ground beef pretty affordably, and just make that your staple. It's an easy thing to do. You can always go into the fridge and grab a little bit of it, right? After you go through all that, you tend to feel all the benefits, and it just gets better and better. So by week 3, week 4, you're feeling really good. And then you've come to the end of this month and you've said you've given it a fair shot, and you can turn around and say, you know what? I know what it was like, and this is what it did for me. Some people may not notice a dramatic difference. Some people, I think most people, especially if there's any health problems, you'll notice that those health problems tend to start balancing out in that month. So everyone's different though, and this is just from the anecdotal evidence from lots of people who've been doing this way of eating. Harvard University put out a study on this actually, and with over 2,000 people, and it's all an epidemiology study, so it's basically a big questionnaire, but they were surprised at the amount of people who had their blood sugars balance out, their hormones balance out, their health problems go away, their joint stiffness went away. So amongst a plethora of other health problems that have been dealt with eating this way. The first time I did anything like this was 2013, and I saw a doctor, and it was a virtually zero-carb diet. And week after week, he introduced more and more carbohydrates, starting with food low on the glycemic index. And it was small amounts each week. And when I came across the carnivore way of eating in 2018, I thought, okay, I already have an idea of what this is gonna feel like. And when I did it, I was surprised at how great I felt, because I tried it for 1 week at a time. I thought, I'm gonna see how I feel at the end of the first week. So I already expected my joints to feel better by the end of the first week. And then I thought, okay, I feel pretty good. I'm gonna try it 1 more week. And I went to the end of the second week and I was like, I feel even better than I did last week. I'm gonna try it 1 more week. And by the end of the 4th week, I thought, I'm doing this for a while, because every week I was feeling better and better. You can't develop a nutritional deficiency within a month of eating like this, especially if it's red meat, because red meat is nutrient dense. So if you find you're having a lot of poultry and chicken and eggs, you know, you might be more hungry eating this way, and you might not go as easily between meals, and you might have more cravings. But when you stick with red meat, it tends to keep you satiated longer. So some things to keep in mind if you ever give this World Carnivore Month a try in January. I know some people that are giving it a shot for the first time, and they're really intrigued. They want to see how they feel. They want to see what the benefits are. And I always recommend, if it doesn't work, if it's not feeling good, stop. But make sure you're doing it right. You don't want to do this and then find out you've been having food improperly, you've been having lots of processed food, or you've been having lots of junk, or there's food with hidden sugars. Keep the food as natural as possible. You know, cook it, salt it, try and keep it there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. You never know how you'll feel unless you try it. And most people tend to feel good. A vast majority of people tend to feel good on this way of eating. Thanks for tuning in. Touch base later.